Yeah, that's right. We back. We're doing it again. You know what I'm saying? Grab a drink, you know what we doing here. You know what I'm sipping on something, smoking a little something. We vibing out. I try to make this an easy space. I try to make this chill, you know what I'm saying? That's why we went with the lo-fi. You know what I'm saying? That's why we went with the lo-fi. We just want to give you the experience that you deserve as a listener. What the fuck is going on, man? What is this? Episode 3? If you rocking with Falling the Forrest, I appreciate that. I'm sipping on something like I said right now, smoking. Listen, if you're sober, I don't want people to feel alienated because they're sober. You know what I'm saying? If you're sober, if you listen to this sober, whether that means you don't drink or smoke or indulge or really anything that is a mind-altering substance, or you just at work or something and you don't do that shit till you get home. Maybe you drive trucks and you're trying to be responsible. I don't know, nigga. But I just want y'all to know y'all welcome. Don't mind me, I wasn't gonna pass this shit anyway. But we got some shit to talk about today. First of all, shout out to my PYO boys listeners. Shout out to my PYO boys listeners. If you are, you know what, that wasn't good enough. Shout out to my PYO boys listeners. If you listen to this right now on the PYO boys fucking feed, then shout out. What happened is this week we actually couldn't get together to record a group episode, so I'm just gonna give y'all the Falling in the Forest pod on this feed. If you don't know what that is, this is my personal podcast that I do. This is Billy from the PYO Boys. But on this, you can call me Lee. We gotta talk about a lot today, man. I'm finding my swag in the gym. It's a real different energy now. I'm no longer afraid. Now it's curls for the girls. Snatches for the catches. This is what we do now. You know what I'm saying? I'm finally finding my swag. I done dabbled in the gym a few times, right? Like, I feel like that's a lot of people's relationship to the gym, right? Especially, like, if maybe you was a student athlete. Because that in itself builds, like, a whole different relationship with it, right? Like, what you're doing, like, say for me, like, I'm lifting for the sake of lifting, right? Quote unquote bodybuilding or whatever. I'm not trying to compete. I'm not competitive, but right, the style of training that I do, I guess you could consider that. But it's so different from like lifting functionally during off seasons to be an athlete, right? Like that's very different. And I do believe that whether you train, I'm not talking about physically, by the way, training anything. I think that a lot of the work that you get in needs to be functional. Like if it doesn't serve your ultimate goal, there's not really too much of a point in doing it. And so, like, I think many of us have had different relationships throughout the gym. You tried to go here, you tried to go there, you tried to go there. They either worked out or it didn't. Maybe you got in the best shape of your life and you didn't really need the gym to maintain decent homeostasis after that. Maybe you got in the best shape of your life and then you got back into the worst shape of your life and now you're trying to go back. Who the fuck knows? But eventually you find yourself, your swag. Like, when I was first doing this shit, bro, I tell you what motivated me to get in the gym, like, as an adult for the first time. Like, this was like my first time working a sedentary job, right? So I was sitting down all day, right? Like this was my first office job back then. And this one, really, I never had to leave the office, right? So unless I was going on lunch, I'm sitting down 8 hours a day. The busy season come, we was working crazy overtime. Overtime was up for grabs here in this situation. So it was like easily like a 10-hour day every single day, sometimes weekends. Just sitting the fuck down, eating whatever I wanted and not really working out at all. And then I go home, sit down, play video games or whatever. Still sitting down and playing video games, by the way. But that was my life. And I watched my body react to that becoming my life. And it was like, holy shit. And then there was some guys that I used to work with who were like really into fitness and health. One of them had lost like a bunch of weight. The other one was like clearly just on his bodybuilding swag. He was getting chiseled. I don't know. I don't think that nigga was ever overweight or out of shape. I think he had a good base and he was like, oh, we seeing what the fuck we could do with this. We seeing what the fuck going on underneath all this, nigga. I don't give a fuck. But there was like a difference. Like I watched, there was just a difference in how people reacted to people that were in shape versus people who weren't in shape. I think that's when I kind of first started to put together, because my identity has switched a few times throughout the course of my life. I grew up as like a chunky child, right? Before chunky child sounds crazy, but I grew up as like a heavy kid, like a really heavy kid, up until like I started like participating in athletics and shit like that, which wasn't until I was like 13, 14. I started to thin out by the time I hit 14, but like really before the age of 12, it was just me being huge, right? So eventually that when you're really really big that early, it sticks with you. It kind of stays a part of your psyche. So when I did get into better shape, I still didn't really understand biomechanics and how the body worked and why it was so easy for me to be in good shape sometimes and not in good shape other times. Like really, it could change like in a 6 month block. Like my size might in clothes I probably would look the same, but like my body composition could like change radically over the course of a few months. And of course, as an athlete, that's not something you want. But I didn't understand stuff like what was causing like bloating and like inflammation and just like what I was consuming regarding like carbs, proteins, fats, whatever the fuck you want to call it. I wasn't paying attention to none of that shit, so you can't really get a handle on that type of shit. So it was just basically my body would just kind of reflect how I was living, which I think is like pretty normal for people, right? But like for me, it would be these big swings, these big extremes. And so I signed up for a gym membership and I started going. And it was fine. It was fine, but I was lifting like on a lot of like bro science and bullshit, right? Like I was kind of just doing shit that made me feel good about what I was doing, right? Like I was really into shocking the muscles. So you don't know what I might do tomorrow. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I was real big into like having absolutely no consistency in my programming. And this is why it'd be so important for you to get knowledge before you do shit, right? Because like, we're not even going to dive into right now, like the myth of like, you got to shock your muscles and like confuse them and shit like that, right? Forget about even diving into the efficacy of a comment like that. But nigga, you can't progressively track how you're getting better at the fucking lifts. You can't progressively track or measure whether or not you're getting stronger if you're not doing the same shit all the time. Like if like you know what I'm saying? Like I just like now the type of way I would do it is like I would stick to a certain set of workouts for a certain amount of time, which would be like a cycle, and then you know rotate things in and out as they're working for you. But you definitely want to keep the shit that's working for you until you plateau, right? Unless you want to focus on a different muscle group or whatever the case may be. But all that to say, that first time was tough because I was asking to get injured. From the way I was doing what I was doing, I was really asking to get injured, bro. Like it was, because it was these like, first of all, I was like, I'm not counting. I'm just going to go to failure every time, which is, I'm not saying anything against that, right? Like if your philosophy is to go to failure every time, but listen, whatever works for you. But like, there was no real way for me to track whether or not I was overloading, right? Like progressively. And there was no real way for me to understand how and why I was or wasn't getting stronger. Because there'd be significant time where like I wasn't getting stronger in certain lifts that mattered to me, and I didn't really understand why, right? And I wasn't warming up. Wasn't no warm up weights being thrown on. Like wasn't none of that, man. I was just getting in there, going at it hard. Technique, iffy. Maybe not. Because back then, I didn't even like to look at myself. I still don't like to look at myself while I'm working out for different reasons than before. From before, I think I was afraid to see things that need correction. Now, I'm really not that into myself. So, like, it makes me feel strange to be, like, watching myself where people can see me. There's like a lot of behaviors that are normal in gyms that I want to participate in, but that I have to remind myself that it's okay and normal to do in a gym, right? Because I don't really like being looked at. Especially in that setting. And back then, I damn sure didn't like being looked at because I didn't feel comfortable with what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't like focused on technique or anything like that. Like, I was trying to have good technique, but I was also like trying to lift too heavy too soon to really ensure that I had good technique. There was a lot going on there. But for me, I think like diving into kind of like the science of muscle hypertrophy and shit like that has helped me to, because that's how I like to compartmentalize things. That's how I like to understand things. Like I like to break things down to as granular a level as I can comprehend. I don't want to sit here and act like I can break anything down at any type of level. That like, no. It gets too granular for your boy sometimes. But I like to break shit down to the most granular way I can and kind of just understand it and internalize in the ways that work for me. And if there's like a science behind something that I can grasp, I'm in. Right? It's a lot easier for me to get into that. Right? And I think that it gives you purpose. It gives you kind of direction. I think that whether we know it or not, we kind of all search for certain principles, certain immutable principles that we can use as a baseline in order to move forward. And I think, you'll hear people use working out and training as like a metaphor for all types of different personal development and growth. And the reason you'll hear people do that is because it's a damn good one. It is. It is. It's a shallow one, but it's a good one. It's fucking physical. It's your physical fucking body. How much more shallow does it get than that? It is what it is, right? Like the mechanism through which we are observing the thing is shallow, but that does not mean that the thing has to be shallow on every level. Because ultimately, right, if we're talking about is one thing specifically, but what we're talking about is another, which is just working towards your personal betterment. Right? It's all about just trying to make sure that you are taking care of your body in any way you can. It don't got to be through lifting weights. It don't got to be through running miles. It don't have to be through none of that. Just find something that works for you and that you think is fun. Like I wouldn't lift weights if that shit wasn't fun. I would do something else. That shit fun for me. But if it wasn't something I enjoy, like I'd be leaving that motherfucker like, yo, this shit is beating my ass. Like I'd be mad when I leave the gym, boy. Like I'd be mad at the machines and everything, and they're like, why would y'all do me like that? Y'all really fucked me up. But at the same time, I enjoy doing that. And if I didn't enjoy doing that, I don't know how the fuck I would do it all the fucking time. So I would never, I feel like that's the other thing, is that people get caught up in trying to engage other people in things that they'll enjoy because you enjoy it. But at the same time, you got to figure out what the other person enjoys. Like, just because you love to jump rope don't mean you got to get all your homeboys involved in jump roping. Just because you like to do this, or just because you like to swim, don't mean all your homeboys now have to swim or they ain't shit. Nah, like, I think everybody has to find something that works for them, that they enjoy doing. And your goals will probably be based around that. I have a personal theory that our goals will naturally fall more in line with what we're actually capable of achieving because of positive reinforcement and how that works. Like the shit that you're capable at and capable of, you will receive positive reinforcement for working at them, right? So you'll do them more. It just kind of is what it is. Like it's a rare motherfucker that sees shit that they absolutely despise, but they respect and they want to be that type of thing. The thing that comes out on the other side of understanding and grasping these things, only a certain type of motherfucker is gonna throw himself at mastering shit that he doesn't actually fucking enjoy. I'm sorry. It's just not how the fucking way. It isn't how the world works. That's why, like, it's like a profession. It's a vocation, and then you have like a hobby. Because yeah, a motherfucker might get really, 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 really fucking good at welding. That's because you're paying him, and you better be paying him damn good to do it. But that's because you're paying him, right? That's the impetus. That's the incentive. Like if you paid me $2 million to try my hand at astrophysics, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna see how much of the money you'll give me for trying my absolute best. If it can't be the whole $2 million, right? Like, but if you wasn't gonna pay me $2 million, I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want to do that. I don't think I need more than a layman's understanding of that shit. Sorry, I do want to understand. Here we go on one of my famous tangents. I would like to understand physics better. I did not pay very much attention in physics class because physics was very mathy. I'm not a math nigga. I do at this point in my life wish that I had a better grasp on physics, right? Because at this point I'm just pulling what I can from where I can and looking into it if I hear it. But I don't understand how this shit works. I don't understand how any of it works. I know it's real, but I don't understand how none of this shit works. I don't. And I think that I could derive more enjoyment out of life if I knew how this shit worked. I do. That's the only reason. It would not serve me in any way. A motherfucker don't gotta understand gravity. I don't have to understand that. Why I gotta understand gravity? All I gotta know is the basic shit they want me to know. Drop two objects of different masses, different weights at the same fucking time. They're gonna hit the ground and fall at the same fucking rate. Barring other forces, right? Like a feather won't fall as quickly as a bowling ball, but a baseball will. I don't know why that is. I don't. I know it's got something to do with the equation for the thing. That's it. And that's all you need to know about half of this shit. The equivalent of that is all you need to know about working out to like work out effectively, right? Just like, you know what I mean? Like I'm just saying, like, because you could just walk somewhere once a week or twice a week, like somewhere really far. That's like, it's a little bit of a chore to walk, but like if you like walking better than you like doing most other things physically, that might be the thing. I don't know. For some motherfuckers, it's busting out push-ups. Look, I don't know. I didn't come in to give y'all niggas 20 minutes on working out though. So I'm trying to figure out when I became a person approaching 30. That's something that I think is tough for me to reconcile with, as it is for many people, I think, in my age demographic. But it's not something that I'm not ready for. It's not something that I don't think about and confront. For those of you that don't know, I turned 27 in September. It is November currently. But you do have an idea of what you think you will be and what you think life will be like. And for those of you who are exactly where you thought you would be, and for those of you who are just knocking down, blowing through these goals that you set for yourself, I want to commend you. Because we don't do no hating here. We don't, you know what I mean? That's fuck nigga shit. We don't do no hating here. But for me, it's difficult to reconcile. Not difficult to reconcile, but you have to ask yourself certain questions, right? Are we nourishing our spirits, right? Are you making time for who you really are? And are you walking the path every day towards where you want to be? And what do you want out of life? Right? Like, if you haven't answered these questions for yourself, then 30 becomes a difficult thing to walk into. Why? Because in society, we kind of use age as markers. Right? And what do they demark? Progression or achievements, or you should have this by this age. You should be doing this by this age. You should know what you want out of life by this age. But I do think that we recognize that it's more complex than that. I do. But also, what's tough is that I think you spend a lot of your 20s, your early 20s, and even your mid-20s sometimes, and hopefully you don't go into your 30s doing this, but I think you spend a lot of time not really encouraging or nurturing who you really are, because maybe there are aspects of your character that you haven't fully come to terms with, right? Or you are still seeking approval from others in ways that inhibit you from really receiving approval from yourself, right? Like your real inner consciousness that informs who you are. You're not feeding that. You're not giving that the nourishment that it needs. And that creates I think that creates such a sad human, right? And I don't mean sad like in a pathetic sense. I don't mean that to be pejorative. I mean, I think it really makes you sad. I think it makes you sad and it makes you bitter. Often. For me personally, that's kind of been like a constant theme in my life, because like I think happiness has always kind of eluded me in ways, and I think that that's very, very, very much tied to our relationship to and our idea of what happiness is, right? Like, if happiness is an emotion, there is no emotion that lasts forever. So everybody is, love, right? There's love, but what I mean to say that is like happiness is like a state of being emotion, right? Like, where it's like depends on how you're viewing love. But like happiness is very much like I'm happy or I'm sad. If there's nothing to contrast being happy with, then you're not happy. You're content maybe, but you wouldn't be happy, right? If you're not like on the other end of the spectrum from sad. So for me, although I've kind of been perceptive enough to understand that about happiness and understand how subjective that is and how much the media pumps this idea of like finding happiness. Right? And you know, like I think there's a big difference between people saying find peace and find happiness. Like, there is this undercurrent in the culture that like we are all owed happiness, right? That we are all owed some sort of everlasting personal happiness if we could just fucking find it. And I don't know that that's the way the world works. I feel fairly certain that it's not. And I think that you become stronger and more resilient when you can understand, right? Like, action bias is a real thing. Action bias is something that I've been confronting in my life recently. with far more gusto, shall we say, than I've ever confronted it before. Right? But to try to keep it poignant, I'm a fairly happy person, but also deeply sad often, right? Like, it is what it is, right? Like, sometimes when you like trapped in your own head and you haven't gotten over things that have happened in your life or certain decisions that you made, everything like that, then like it can feel like you're kind of like always living in like a time loop, like a flashback. Like, you constantly getting flashbacks when you're supposed to be like growing and like being present. And that shit is a part of growth for some of us, right? It really is. It's something that you need to go through, but it's also something that can make you feel really, really weak. And like, it's almost like you living in hell because you can't really escape that, right? Like, it's like you're trapped in the four walls of your mind, right? Like, it's like when you constantly disassociate like that throughout the course of the day, like, it's like your body's here but your mind is here. Like, it's hard to get a grip on that. It's hard to grasp that the right way, I think, because it's not tangible. It's not as tangible, right? Whatever your coping mechanism is your coping mechanism. And for some, disassociation is a coping mechanism, but also like the things that ail you are the things that ail you, and you must remedy them if you seek to be remedied of them, but at the same time, they're there. And so, like, if disassociation is something that, like, ails you, if you're constantly, like, trapped in other places in your fucking mind, it's gonna feel really difficult. Like, it's for sure extremely difficult to talk about it with people who don't go through it, right? But I definitely understand what it's like. It's like you're always in two places at once. And the worst part is you really don't have a lot of control over it. That's why you got to pick up tools to manage it and gain some sort of control over it, because you don't got a lot of control over it. And so you're trying to be present, but you can't. And that's fucked up. We got to get on some lighter shit, though, because I'm going to lose niggas. You got to get on some lighter shit. Alright, so I don't know. If you're listening to this, I don't know whether or not you're engaged in a situation. If you're in a relationship, if you're single, that's between you, God, and the government. I'm not here to get involved in your business. But I'll tell you one thing that I noticed. That's really tough. That's really tough to navigate as a person when you are single, right? This is something I used to always say, right? Like, because I've been on the other side of it. Like, I've been the nigga I'm about to talk about. But, like, sometimes, and this could be vice versa, too. Like, this could happen to women with men and everything like that. But sometimes when you get ghosted, you really don't have to take it personally. Sometimes one of these niggas pulled her to the side and let her know that he's not having it. Sometimes a nigga can't just come to terms with the fact that one of the shorties that he's dealing with, or perhaps the only shorty he's dealing with, is out here trying to deal with other people. That's real difficult to come to terms with a lot of the time for niggas. And so oftentimes what you'll see, even with women that they're not in a relationship with, women who they won't commit to, but they won't let be free. That shit is tough. Sometimes, like, I feel like 50% of all ghostings are the result of, like, yo, that nigga, you know what I mean? That nigga told you not to fuck with me no more. For real, sometimes that nigga told her not to fuck with you. And there's nothing you can do about that. It's nothing you can do about that. He won. When they pull that card, when a nigga's not showing affection, now all of a sudden he want to show affection. When a nigga not writing a phone, now all of a sudden he want to write a phone. You know what I'm saying? Nigga might have went through the phone, seen some things that you sent, and he's not having that. You understand what I'm saying? He's not having that. Or it's time to go back. Maybe she was single for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. She's in an on and off again situation. You know what I mean? We all know how that goes. Hey, you know what I'm saying? What you do when you off is what you do when you off. That's between you, the person, the other person and the government. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not my business. I'm not your pastor. And if I was your pastor, I wouldn't get involved in that type of shit anyway. But sometimes it was just what it was. It was 2-3 weeks. She got back with him. They're going to try to work it out. It's none of your business whether it works out or not. You don't have to bet on that. You know what I'm saying? But what happens, happens. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we're too hard on ourselves. Sometimes you got to chalk it up to the game. When you get ghosted, you have to chalk it up to the game. And I'm going to keep it funky because I've been on the other side. Like, when I've been single and dating and shit like that, like, my nigga, I've ghosted people. Because I was just like, yo, this shit ain't going to work. Matter of fact, I'm going to give y'all motherfuckers a story. There was just one young lady, and she was super, super, super fucking cool, but at the same time, kind of wasn't. Like, was kind of really aggressive and assertive, but not aggressive and assertive and like a standard person being aggressive and assertive. There's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? I got friends that are like that. I enjoy people who are like that. But in a very like, I don't want to say abusive because I wasn't really with her for her to be abusing me, but like, she was like very clearly used to like animosity when she was upset about something. And like, she was very confrontational, and I'm really not a super confrontational person, but she was very confrontational, and it was rough for me because I felt like when she was tight, the energy would just get crazy, right? So like, and mind you, me and this young lady wasn't really doing anything. Like, we hadn't even really been involved. Like, I didn't even know if she really liked me or not. Like, I knew there was an expectation of like us liking each other, I guess, but I couldn't really read her. Like, we'd probably been out on like 4 dates and we never kissed, nothing like that. So it was just like, okay, like, I don't know what's going on. She keeps inviting me out, and she was mad thoughtful in other ways. Like the first date, she paid, right? I tried to pay, but she paid, right? Like, it was what it was. Or she heard me mention that I wanted to try certain type of meat. I don't want to pause that. I'm too grown to have to pause that. But she heard me mention that. Shut up, make some noise for me. Good personal growth. Personal growth. But she heard that I had wanted to try certain. I told her that I wanted to try certain shit. And I did. So I tried the shit and it was good. She invited me to a place and I went. She's like, yo. And she's like, yeah, they serve all day. And I was like, oh my God, you're listening. But at the same time, this is a person who who tried to engage me in a fierce argument, like was really upset with me because I didn't know the difference between like 2 reality TV shows. And then the things with the reality TV shows were important now, but I didn't know this person like that. Like, you would think from how I'm talking about this situation, right, that like there was some time in with this person, and it was actually like I'm talking about nothing had occurred between us. Nothing would ever occur between us. But I did end up having to ghost her because one time we go to see a movie. And what happened? Oh, she said some crazy shit. Like, cause we was kind of like, rubbing against each other at this point. Like, and she was like, I'm not gonna lie. I wasn't gonna come back out with you or fuck with you, but my homegirl was like, nah, you saying he a good nigga, give him a chance. So I'm here. Mind you, again, like I told you before, this was somebody who I had been out with but never kissed, right? Who I had, like, we had never done anything that would even, like, cement the kind of relationship to be there for you to, like, say something like that to me while we out on a date and not totally ruin my mood. You feel me? But my poker face is strong. I think that's why people really try me. Like, I think people try me because until you say the wrong thing, I'm really just gonna roll with all the punches. So you're probably assuming I'm more and more thick-skinned than I am, when in reality, I'm just trying to figure out what the fuck going on. And I feel like a lot of people feel like men can't be turned off like that. But we can. And I was, because it was just like, what? I didn't even say nothing, mind you. I just never hit her up again. Never hit up again after that. Like, we went our separate ways after the movie. I acted like everything was cool. And then she never heard from me again. Like, she would call me and I would just ignore the phone calls. One day I accidentally picked up. No, she called me from an unknown number. That's what it was. Like a number I couldn't see or something. And I picked that bitch right up. I said, hello? She was mad as shit. But not mad as much as hurt. Like, her voice was cracking. And I'm not going to reveal to you what she said to me because I feel like that's fucked up. Like, we not here to make fun of niggas here. We never here to make fun of anybody. Especially people whose feelings we hurt. Like, we not even saying that this person hurt my feelings. We would never be here to make fun of people whose feelings that we hurt. Because I'm not that type of nigga. Unless I'm being funny. But y'all don't know me like that. So I'm not just going, you know what I mean? Like, that's reserved for the closest of homies. But like, I could say some real scummy shit. But the joke is that I said it. And I would never say it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't giving y'all that. You know what I'm saying? I might have to start a Patreon or something before I get y'all that. And set it at some absurd price that you guys would never want to pay for my low quality ass content. Like, 10 cents or something. Like, I'm not funny. That was real corny, but I really laughed at it. And I just hope y'all starting to understand who I am. I hope y'all start to understand who I am. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm really somebody's dad, but I'm not. So I'm going to keep it funky. I got a second job recently, right? And it's like, I work at a bar, right? I'm looking to learn how to bartend, but right now I'm a bar back for my second job, right? So like, the bathrooms that we use are the bathrooms that the customers use. And there's something that just rubs me the wrong way about a woman walking into a bathroom after you just fucking demolished it, dude. Like, after you just took the most serious... Because I'm talking about real shit here. I'm talking about the things that need to be talked about. You're not going to get this on your other podcast. We talking about the real shit here. It's something about, like, if it's a guy, you kind of feel bad, like, you don't want to do that to him, but it's something about using a shared restroom, like a co-ed bathroom. These are single bathrooms, but like a bathroom that a man or a woman can use. It's something about walking out that motherfucker after taking a shit that you just don't want a woman to walk in there after you. You feel exposed. You feel disgusting. I'm sure it's the same for women or even like a gay person probably wouldn't want like a guy. Like anybody who is just like you not supposed to look silly in front of, right? Like society don't want you to look crazy in front of these people. Like as a man, you don't want to look dirty in front of any woman, right? You don't. But at the same time, everybody poops. This is life. This is what happens, right? In the real world. We talking about life in the wild right now. I'm dead serious. Sometimes you gotta go, and it is a dogma of mine. It is a personal fucking dogma of mine that deuces will be dropped. If I have to drop a load, bro, like that's happening. I'm not 17 anymore. Like I can't hold shits in for hours on end until I get home. That's not happening, bro. I tell you another thing. That's dangerous and it's wrong and you shouldn't have to fucking do it. You shouldn't have to do it. You shouldn't have to hold your one or your two. You shouldn't have to hold that fucking shit for ungodly amounts of time. It's fucked up. It's fucked up. It's fucked up. We all got things to do. We all got place to be and we all take shits. But you just never want to take a shit and then have a chick walk in the bathroom right behind you. You know what I'm saying? You don't. Just like you don't want to walk into a dirty bathroom, but be the last person that people see walk out that dirty bathroom because the person that go in the bathroom behind you is going to be like, this nigga done fucked the bathroom up. And it don't even be you. It don't even be you. Shit, at my day job, actually, my first job that I work like during the daytime, it's a nigga in there who is, he's mentally handicapped, and that's fine. We're all really respectful of that, and that's not like some magical bar. Like he's not. It's not. He's not any different than the rest of us. Like he is, but at the same time, like it's like we can have conversations with him. And actually, being that he's Jewish, he's been very concerned with what's been going on in the media lately, right? Like, but say this to say, like, long and short, like the only reason him being developmentally challenged or mentally challenged comes into play here is that like it really affects him most around shit. Around like shitting, the act of shitting. Like when it's time to shit, he turns into a robot, right? Like he turns into a robot, he makes a beeline for the bathroom, he can't be spoken to, and he will fart the whole way there, right? And like sometimes shit get a little explosive. It gets real in the field with this man, right? And he'll have the bathroom shut down until the cleaning people come in later that night and clean it. And today he had one of those moments at about 2:30. At about 2:30, and thank God we have 2 bathrooms, right? But at about 2:30, this nigga had rendered the first of the 2 bathrooms totally unusable. Cause there was shit in places shit don't need to be. Shit in places that once you see, like, I won't use that bathroom for days. May never again. May never again. Like maybe 7 days worth of cleaning will make me feel comfortable. Or maybe if I throw some bleach on that bitch myself. You understand what I'm saying? But there's certain shit you just not supposed to fucking see. And the bathroom should be a sacred fucking space. I'm serious. The bathroom should be a sacred space. Like, this is where we go to get down for real, bro. Like, you gotta be a real fucking menace to society. And of course, he's not. He's fine. He's doing the best he can. And fuck you if you got a problem with it. Because I work with the nigga and I don't got a problem with it. So I'm just telling the story because it's funny. Because I'm a take a shit at work type of nigga. So you done rendered one of the bathrooms useless. And technically the other bathroom is a woman's bathroom. It's just that I only work with one woman. And she's the loveliest lady. And she allows us to use that bathroom. Because number one, she understands what's going down. And number two, like, she's not always in the bathroom. So, if somebody else is in the bathroom, the male's bathroom, technically, and you really gotta go, then you're gonna go in the woman's bathroom, right? Like, it is what it is. And that was the bathroom that I was able to take my shit in, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, like, I do work in a building where there's other floors, so honestly, the other floors is nicer than when we work anyway. So I've definitely been known to run up to one of them other floors and drop me something real quick. We just did like 5 minutes on Dookie. You gotta understand, you never know what you're gonna get with this podcast. You really never know. You know what I'm saying? But we just did like 5 minutes at least on the bathroom and Dookie. And we touched on mental illness a little bit as respectfully as we could. You feel me? Because I think this is my first time working with a person who is challenged in the way that he's challenged. But I also say that like there's really no difficulty with it. Like he's not like people have so many stereotypes. I would say, like, people have so many stereotypes about people that are handicapped, whether it be physically, whether it be mentally, and I see people get more frustrated than I think they should, and I don't like that. Like when people are rude to him or rough with him, it doesn't strike me. It don't rub me the right way, cause I feel like I don't know. I don't feel like I have to explain that. I feel like being mean is just not dope, bro. Like, I'm sorry. I know it's not the cool thing to say, but at the end of the day, like, I can't pretend like I'm a mean person, bro. Like, I can be mean. I'm capable of being incredibly mean. I've been incredibly mean to people at times. But, like, I can't sleep behind that shit. Like, it just ain't right. It ain't me, right? Like, I don't feel good from making other people feel bad. So, like, some would say I'm too nice. Now, I disagree with that. Because it is fundamentally important to my survival to disagree with that. Because when motherfuckers think you're too nice, motherfuckers play with you in crazy motherfucking ways. But that is kind of the story of my life. Like, I be getting played with in ways that you would never believe a motherfucker can be played with. Oftentimes, I will tell my dogs the story of how I've been played with. And they'll be like, how does that happen to you? How would somebody even feel comfortable doing that to you? And I'd be like, that's what I'm saying. I'm not being a victim here. It's not even like always terrible shit. It's oftentimes just silly, ridiculous shit. You know what I mean? Come too nice. And people just be trying to set me up. They be like, yeah. At some point. Because they think when you too nice that you dumb. And fair. Fair. Because one could argue that being too nice is kind of dumb. I ain't gonna lie. I don't like that you gotta throw a little mean on the situation sometimes. Sometimes you gotta be mean to motherfuckers so they don't play with you. I don't like that. I'm really only able to comfortably do that with like homeless crazy people. You feel me? Because I'm genuinely, listen, let's dive into it. We at minute 40. Nobody important is still here. Listen to me, man. I want to be in the socially correct position regarding homelessness and mental illness and the intersection at which they meet in New York City, as well as drug addiction. But I'm not gonna lie, bro. I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do the first time a crazy person whose sweats are covered in feces touches me. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm not one of those people that's cool with being touched. That's my thing. Like, I go out of my way not to touch people, bro. Like, I'm not one of those people who's super averse to being touched. I'm not like a super germaphobe. But there's certain things I will not touch, and I don't know what I will do if they touch me. And the thing with some of the homeless population in New York City is that they're very aggressive. They're very aggressive. They're going through it. You know what I'm saying? They're going through it. I've seen things, is what I want you to understand. Like, I've seen things. All right? I've seen attacks. And they don't always have to be like physical violent attacks. Sometimes they're pee attacks. Sometimes they're open masturbation attacks. Any kind of attack. But I've seen attacks. I've also like seen the prejudice and the fucked up shit that goes on from people who think that they're above those kinds of people. However, I'm not above telling you the truth that I have not accomplished the level of growth yet to allow me to know what the fuck would happen next if one of them touched. I don't want to say one of them. What would happen next if somebody invaded my personal space and touched me in that way, right? Because I don't like that shit, bro. I don't like that shit. And I feel like it get real disrespectful on New York City public transportation anyway. Like the people I'm talking about are already disrespecting your space because they be loud, they be in their own world, they be doing whatever they doing, and listen, far be it from me. Far be it from me. I ain't got no problem with you. I really don't. I hope that you get the help that you need. I feel real genuine compassion. And this is why it's hard to talk about this shit, but I gotta talk about it. It's hard to talk about that shit because how do you say that you're a compassionate person? Like, you know how nasty it sounds to be like, I'm mad compassionate, but don't you fucking touch me. That's some nasty shit. Like, and if you lean into it, like, yeah, I got empathy. I'm kind. All that shit. I don't mind none of that. I stop and smell the roses. I'm drinking a hot toddy right now. I'm in touch. But don't you fucking touch me. You know what I mean? Like, that's a nasty way to go about life. Like, it's hard. It's hard. But there's that dichotomy where it's just like, are you gonna act like you don't understand me? Would you go to Skid Row and just start handing out hugs? Probably not. So at the end of the day, nigga, motherfuckers that live on Skid Row would not walk up and down that shit and hug everybody they see. Alright? It's just not going down like that. And there's a reason for that. And the reason is not that something is wrong with anybody. Right? The reason is just that we all know what time it is with certain shit. That is just it. Man, I gotta I never forget one of my dogs, man. I gotta have him on the pod because I stay having him on the PYO pod. I ain't gonna lie. Matter of fact, I ain't gonna say no names because I gotta let him tell the story on the PYO joint, but he was touched. He was touched and he was fine. Right? Like nothing happened. Nothing happened. He certainly didn't make a big deal of it. And I didn't make a big deal out of it. Things didn't make a big deal out of it. We just had a good laugh. But see, like, this is as mean as I'm comfortable being. Like, we gotta move on, because I can't be this mean. Like, I feel like I'm being mean. I'm not even on the stage. Like, let me write like a 15 and hit y'all niggas on the stage. That's what I'll be mean, like, right? Like, you could be mean if you, like, actually got a microphone in your hand in front of people, right? Like, I'm just a nigga talking to himself for all intents and purposes. That's kind of disgusting. We have to move on. Listen. I'm trying to learn how to do myself. You got to do your future self favors, right? Like, almost like if you was like an animal and like you were like hunting and like you were leaving yourself little caches for you to go back to later and eat. Like, you got to do that for your future self. You feel me? Like, you got to make decisions right now that like you in like 2 weeks, a month, 6 months, gonna be like, I see what you did there. Good looking, my boy. That's important. They're not gonna tell you that type of shit is important because they don't want you to win. But me, this stranger who you've never met talking in a microphone, I want you to win. I need you to believe that I want you to win. Then I need you to go into your Cash App and send me $10 so that we can win. That's the truth. But I ain't gonna lie, like, you gotta start like planting seeds, and then you eventually reap what you sow, and you're like, damn, that's a W that I planted years ago. Like, right? Like, cause one thing about losses is that like the only time that things become truly wasteful and what you're doing becomes truly a waste of time is when your losses don't mean anything anymore. Like, when the negatives, when the bad things, when the losses, when they're not lessons, to be corny, like when they don't teach you how to be a little bit different every time, then it's like wasted. Then it's just bad shit happening. But like, the loss is supposed to make you patient. The loss is supposed to turn you into a demon, for lack of a better term, right? Like, you're supposed to become so much more focused and so much more patient. And you're supposed to be able to look at such a longer game. Every time you fuck up and set yourself back, you must play the long game. Because you have more ground to cover now, right? You want to cover it as quickly as possible, but the long game becomes your friend the more you age. Because it's not even just about relative levels of success. Really, most of the things that are truly valuable in life must be worked at, must be earned through consistency. So you learn how to be consistent through losses because you learn how to avoid the loss that you just took. There's consistency in that, right? Like learning how to live your life the way that you perceive that it should be lived, or the way that life is at least teaching you that you should be living it. Like when I was younger and didn't really understand even what this shit even meant. When I was young and I thought that I was like intelligent and I thought that I was like really smart about the world around me. And so like I would come up with like these phrases, right? That I had no business. It's funny because life is like, oh yeah, I'll show you. And it showed me that I was kind of right. But at the same time, I had no idea what the fuck I was in for. But I used to say life will teach you how to live it if you live it long enough, right? Like if you can live long enough, life will teach you how to live it. And of course, that was like a fucking 19, 20, 21-year-old person's oversimplification of like what he perceived as self-actualization could be for him. But it does hold like more and more true, right? And I think that I'm not a person that believes in a lot of like magic, to be frank, or like spiritual energy and all that type of shit. Like that's just not me. But I'm not gonna lie, bro. Like when I think about my life and all the bad things that happen, them shits kind of had to happen. Like they really, 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 really did humble me in very important ways that I feel like I needed humbling, right? And maybe I'm too hard on myself, right? Because life's been hard on me, but at the same time, I know what my poor proclivities are and what they have been. Like, I know the parts of my character that I'm so glad that, like, I never won at life while I was at my worst, right? Because I think that you have the possibility of that reinforcing those aspects of your character. And I think that I think that for me, working hard on myself has really been my saving grace. Like, I just don't know. I just don't know that if it wasn't for trying to work really hard to manage whatever the negative is, I don't know if the good would overshadow it. I genuinely don't. I think a lot of us don't. We struggle with this. Like, what is being good? I don't know if I even identify. Fuck that. I don't even agree with that shit. What is good? What is bad? These things are subjective. There are things that are abhorrent, yes, but fuck you. Fuck you. Anarchy. I don't know. But you know what I'm trying to say, and if you don't, that's okay, because you're listening. And I'm not gonna mock you if you're listening. You try your fucking best to follow along. A question that I feel like men don't ask ourselves enough is what masculinity means to us. And that's something that, I've never spent a lot of time thinking about. But I have spent time acting out, right? Like, I really have never thought of myself through the lens of, like, being a masculine person or being a feminine person, right? Like, I've kind of always looked at myself in my own mind as just a person, which I think maybe it's different than other people. I don't know. That's just my worldview in my head and how it's always kind of been. Like, when I think of Malik, which is my name, but when I think of me, myself, I'm not thinking of a gender. I'm not thinking of, because I'm not looking at myself like that, right? Like, even like physically, like, I don't think of myself as my face and like that's not what I'm thinking of when I'm thinking of myself, right? Like, I'm thinking of me, how I experience me, which is like my personal idea of myself, the things I like, the things I don't like, the experience I've lived and how they've shaped me. Like, that is how I see myself, right? So for me, the concept of like what masculinity means to me, like, I don't know, I can identify what traditional Western caricatures of masculinity are. I understand those. I probably react positively to those, right? I'm a huge Dragon Ball guy. I'm sure the hyper-masculine presentation of the characters of that show, right, being that they're just like walking action figures, and like, listen, we don't have to get into all that, because at the end of the day, we will not assail Dragon Ball, right? Neither the manga nor the anime. We will not assail it. But I say that to say, I think that I've always like struggled with kind of like that concept as it relates to me, because I've never felt an onus to act out. Now, I've definitely seen toxic masculine behaviors arise in myself, in my lowest, weakest moments. Like, I've grasped onto it and used it to attack people who I was angry at 100%. And those are things that I'm really ashamed of having done, but I wouldn't lie about having done. Like, I've definitely weaponized my masculinity at times, and like, somebody's listening to this like, damn, I didn't know this nigga was a cuck. Shout out to you, because that's funny. That's funny, but I am trying to be honest. I'm just trying to be honest, right? Like, and that's another thing. Like, this stuff is just out there. It's out there. If you don't like what I'm saying, then you don't like what I'm saying, right? But like, perhaps you listen in a perspective you wouldn't have listened to before. Like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I don't know, nigga. But I'm just trying to say, like, it is what it is with a lot of this shit. And I listen back to the podcast and I say it is what it is a lot. But you know what I gotta say to that, don't you? It is what it is. It is what it is, nigga. I don't know. But like I said, I don't really look at myself in my corporal form, right? Like, I'm sure some of that is related to body dysmorphia and like never liking myself physically when I was younger. Like when I was a kid, I really wasn't a fan of my physical appearance. Like, but I just kind of feel like a thing, like a concept, like an essence. Like when I think of myself, I'm just thinking of all that is of me. I'm thinking of my wants. I'm thinking of my hopes, my dreams, my fears, my proclivities, my hobbies, the things I like, my job, like, right? Like these are the things that I'm thinking of when I think of me, my identity, right? I'm thinking of everything that encapsulates me. But when another person thinks of me, they might just literally just be thinking of like who I am physically, right? But like, I'm sure in other people's minds, they're like, me, a man, right? Like, you feel me? Like, I'm sure that exists, right? Like, I'm sure, like, and my identity is in a lot of ways tethered to being, like, a straight male who identifies as a straight male, right? Like I'm a male I am a biological male who identifies as a man. Jesus Christ, I'm working really hard to, like, get my verbiage right, dude. You know what I mean? Like, I'm really working hard at it, but, like, dog, I'm not perfect, right? But, like, right? But, like, you know, some of this shit is easy for me to say, like, as a male who identifies as stop this. You feel me? But, nah, like, me personally, like, I know people must identify heavily with that stuff, and I know that, like, yeah, I'm sure in ways I do as well, but it's always been so weird to me that more people can't relate to the idea of like being bigger than the concept of being masculine or feminine. Like that's a very binary way to look at yourself, right? And there's a non-binary joke in there somewhere. I gotta pull it out. I'm not a comedian. I don't write jokes, so somebody can pull that out though. There's definitely a non-binary joke in there, but that's a very binary way to look at your existence, right? Dude, like the specific, in this singular time in history, the specific secular expression of quote unquote manhood or womanhood, like to look at yourself through that lens, to me is like something that I think was always going to be challenged because it's there to be challenged. It's not something that is like the foundation, the core of that is its roots in culture, right? It's not in like the logic. It's not in that. It's not in like the efficacy of the claim, because we understand, right? On some level, we understand. We all have a slight understanding of gender theory, right? I don't want to say that's so recklessly irresponsible of me to say, because you can't common sense your way through complex nuanced issues. You really can't. But I do think that we all kind of understand that like we're acting out certain roles, and like it's really easy to get invested and caught up in that character, and it's often the greatest performance you'll ever give. Like you having been born and being a man, you having been born and being a woman may be the single greatest performance of your life, right? You might not even be able to act in any other capacity, but just in the way you fucking attack the role of being whatever type of man, woman you wanted to be will be the greatest Oscar worthy, right? But ultimately, is it a performance? Is it a performance? A cultural performance? I truly believe that culture is the most powerful agent and influence in humanity. I do. So I think that we can do wonderful things through culture. Like culture is able to create crazy things. Like, humans are able to accomplish things that that just should be much more difficult than if you can make it a part of the culture. It just gets seamlessly integrated. It's even kind of easier for you to understand new things through the prism of like accepting and adapting to the culture that the thing exists in. Like, it is what it is, baby. Like, you know what I'm saying? It is what it is, baby. You spend a few years in Japan, you might be able to just Java Japanese shit more. Like, you know what I'm saying? You might come back doing funny dances. No. That's a toe across the line. I'm sorry to our Japanese listeners. Nah, alright. I think we got one more topic left, man. I gotta let y'all niggas go, because the only motherfuckers listening right now is like, you're probably my dad or something. Nah, but I'll say this. As we come to a close in 2023, and this is like real early to be doing an end of year podcast, and this is not an end of year podcast, it's been a really rough year for me, but also the best one I've had in a long time. I was forced to let go of a lot of things that I've been holding on to for a long time, and I will never be the same ever again in life. So settling into that has been difficult, right? It's like almost you want to ask, why does personal growth always seem to be attached to these devastating things that almost break us, right? That make us question our faith in ourselves or in humanity, and like, why can't we let go of the things that we did wrong and the people who don't want to associate with us anymore because of those things? Why can't we let those go if we truly are seeking to change, if we truly are different than we were? And maybe we can. I don't fucking know. But this year has really been, in every, of the last 3 years, really every year of the last 3 years has been really crucial and really formative for me, because I spent a lot of time just reacting to stimuli and running from problems and shutting down and disassociating before that. And I really devolved into like not a good version of myself, and really sometimes not a good person. And that shit is hard to get out of, and there's no guarantee. Like, it's those forks in the road where like people become shitty people, right? And like stay shitty people, right? So like that stuff is scary and it's tough for me to talk about, but you know, we talk about them vaguely, of course. But this year has probably been the most uncomfortable in terms of personal growth. Like, I just have put myself in more situations that I haven't been in before, and just hope for the best, and worked harder than I've ever worked. And I'm kind of getting a handle on it, and I feel good, and I feel comfortable and confident in where I'm at right now. But who knows, that could change, right? Everything is always constantly in flux, and you're just trying to manage things. And that's been a difficult part of life for me, is understanding that you will constantly be managing things. Like, right? Like, life is like real life, like the real world is like you have a bunch of plates spinning on sticks, like the fucking circus motherfuckers be doing. Like, you are holding a bunch of plates spinning on sticks, and it's like you just keep getting handed more fucking plates and more fucking sticks, and like you gotta find ways to balance them shit. You can't hold them all. You have to find ways to balance them, all type of fucking crazy type of ways. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you gotta sacrifice. Like, that shit is fucking hard. All of it. Every fucking bit of it. And we all do it every single fucking day. Every single one of us, every single day, is fighting to grapple and come to terms with existence. And such is the human condition, my nigga. I don't know. I don't fucking know. I don't know. Is that what you want to hear? Thank you. Nah, but thanks for spending some time with me. If this ain't your first time here, you'll notice that I get progressively more and more inebriated throughout the course of the pod. But I just want you to know that I never get in the car and drive after this. You know what I'm saying? I got respect for myself and the community. You know what I'm saying? We no longer we came a long way. We came a long way from the days of doing silly shit in unregistered vehicles. Faf, nigga.